Hey guys, Probable1701 here, and today we're going to talk about which doctor is the most hurt by their era. Like, which of all the doctors, which one has the biggest discrepancy between how good their doctor is and how maybe not as good their era is, with the biggest gap between them. So I actually think there's several you can pick from. Some people might say the Sixth Doctor, and that he didn't get the stories he deserved in his TV era, and luckily Big Finish has come along to redeem him. Some people might say the Seventh Doctor, and maybe his era kind of hurt his Doctor. Although that one I fully disagree with. I just think the Seventh Doctor's era is vastly underrated, quite possibly the most underrated, to be honest. As the Seventh Doctor's era is actually really good. A lot of people have the bad habit of assuming that his whole era is Time in the Rani, which it's not. His era is actually really good, with one of his seasons being one of the best seasons in the show's history, in my opinion. And then I think you could make a good argument for Matt Smith's era. I do think Matt Smith is a great doctor, and I do think his era is like all of the Moffat era. It's very inconsistent. Series 5 is pretty strong, but it still has some misses. Like that Vincent episode that's so terrible. And of course series 6 and 7 are not well thought of, especially Series 7, which is often held pretty low in the fandom's opinions. Although I think it's a little underrated, but only a little underrated. But the one I'm going to go with is Capaldi, because Capaldi is such a great doctor, and his era is such a mixed bag, and I just feel like he didn't get the stories he deserved, he didn't get the writing he deserved, and he didn't get the time he deserved as the doctor. Now this says a lot coming from me, as Capaldi is not the highest on my doctor list, because I don't tend to click with the Capaldi-style doctors, the more serious, grumpy doctors, the Colin Bakers, the William Hartnells, the Peter Capaldis, as much. I tend to prefer the Tom Bakers, the Patrick Troughton's, the David Tennants, the Matt Smiths, more so myself. But Capaldi is one of the best actors to play the Doctor when it comes to pure acting ability. He is so good in the role. He really does have that ability to help carry even bad stories. His performance always makes a bad story at least a little better than it would be without him. In some stories, he really does carry at least into being decent. Some stories are just so bad, there's not a lot you can do for it, but he's still good in them. Like Kill the Moon. It's awful, but he's still good in it. One thing I've said several times, it was actually something I saw somebody comment in one of my videos a long while back, probably back when I first started really just doing a lot of content, and it's something that stuck with me. It's something I've mentioned in the comments several times. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it, and it's that Capaldi is an amazing doctor in an average era, or something to that effect. And it's very true. To me, that comment just hit the nail on the head. It's always stuck with me. He's such a good doctor, but in such an average era. Because all three of his series, much like Matt Smith, to be honest, are mixed bags. There is no just like Eccleston series here. Whereas Eccleston's Series 1, Eccleston's one series is practically flawless. There's not a bad story in there. They're all pretty good stories. I think Series 3 is like this. Series 4 is like this. Series 4 personally has a couple I don't care for, like Midnight or Turn Left, but the fandom tends to consider it a pretty flawless series. It is really good. Series 3 is like that for me. I love Series 3. There's no bad stories in it. The Moffat era is more like Series 2. Series 2 is the one series in the Russell era that's really a mixed bag, and pretty much all of Moffat's seasons are like that. All of his series are like that. All three of Matt Smith's, because even Series 5 to me is hit or miss. It has more hits than misses. It has the best ratio of the group. There's still some misses. Series 6 and 7 are about half and half. And I think Series 8 and 10 are about half and half. And I think Series 9 is mostly bad. With just a few good ones. Now don't get me wrong, they have good stuff in them, but they also have really bad stuff in them. Series 9 you have Heaven Sent and the Under the Lake two-parter, which are great, and Sleep No More, which after my recent rewatch I think is pretty nice and enjoyable. It's not bad, has some good ideas in it. But then you have The Girl Who Waited two-parter, which is not good and a waste of time. The Zygon two-parter, which is too drawn out. It should have been if that had been one episode, I think it would have been really good. but as a two-parter, it just takes too long. I fall asleep. It's got the speech. Love the speech. Great speech. Not worth 2 episodes to get to. Plus, it has some really stupid decision-making going on in it. Really bad writing. The Dalek two-parter with Capaldi and Davros ranked last on when I was ranking my Dalek stories. It was at the very bottom. It has some good moments in it. And a lot of the exchange between the Doctor and Davros is really good. All the way up until you find out it's a con. It's one of those things where Moffat was doing great, and then he got too clever for himself, and he just crapped all over it. Much like Listen. Great episode, terrible ending ruins the episode. Same thing here. Some great moments between the Doctor and Davros. Then Davros opens his eyes, and I'm sitting there going, what? He just had them closed the whole time? We're going to have to put an eye right here in your head so you can see. You can't open your eyes, can you? Yeah, I can open my eyes. Why don't you do that? Nah, just put the other one in. I can't be bothered. Maybe Davros is just really lazy. So that's dumb. The whole guitar and the tank thing is dumb. It's just, dumb. So to me, there's more misses than hits in that one. I feel like I'm missing a two-parter somewhere. And I don't like Face the Raven. I love the very end of Face the Raven, but I don't like Face the Raven. And, Series 8 is half and half. The episodes in Series 8 I really like. Flatline is amazing. Mummy on the Orient Express is amazing. Deep Breath is really good. My appreciation for that one goes up every time I watch it. I really like Deep Breath now. Into the Dalek, pretty good. Robot of Sherwood, also like that. It's another one of those I didn't care for much the first time I watched it. But having watched it about 3 or 4 times now, I appreciate it more every time. It's just a fun little story, and it's very humorous. And I love how the old grumpy doctor is acting so childish in it. And Time Heist is a lot of fun. I really enjoy Time Heist. But then you have Listen, which is garbage. You have The Caretaker, which is, I don't really like The Caretaker, but it has moments. It does have some humorous moments. But I don't really care for it. Kill the Moon, which is one of the worst Doctor Who stories ever made and could be in contention for worst Doctor Who story ever. Forest of the Night, which is quite possibly the most boring episode of Doctor Who ever made. I'm still not quite sure what's going on with it. What's up with the little sister that pops up at the end? I need to rewatch it, but I don't want to rewatch it, so I haven't rewatched it. And then the Death in Heaven, Dark Water, whatever finale is not really that great. So mixed bag. Series 10, it's weird because I used to say Series 10 was pretty good for the most part, pretty consistent. It was only when I was looking over Series 10 recently I realized it's really not that consistent. The pilot, pretty good. Need to rewatch it, but pretty good. Smile, I really enjoy. I liked my last rewatch of Smile. Not essential Doctor Who, but I really enjoyed it. Thin Ice, I love. Thin Ice is probably my second favorite Capaldi story after Heaven Sent. I just love Thin Ice. The BBC does period pieces like that so well. I absolutely love Thin Ice. But then, I'm trying to remember all the stories. Like Knock Knock, I need to rewatch again. I remember liking it, but not loving it. I need to give it a rewatch. And I like the older guy in it, the guy who used to play in, what's the name of Hercules Poirot, whatever his name is, the detective. I know he played him. I like him. He was also in the Wing Commander movie. But then there's like Oxygen, and I think Oxygen, I don't like Oxygen. I think it sucks, to be honest. I think it's shot really well. It's really visually impressive. The director did a really good job shooting it. But much like the God Complex, I just think the script is trash. Then there's the Eaters of Light, which I think is garbage, which is disappointing considering it's the only modern Who story written by a classic Who author. And her classic Who story, Survival, is really good. But I didn't like the Eaters of Light. The Monk trilogy, I like Extremis a lot, but the other 2 parts I don't really care for and feel like a waste of time. And then the Dr. Falls 2-parter is really good. I really like that one. So, also a mixed bag, and I feel like I'm missing one that I didn't like, but I don't remember what it was, maybe? So, also a mixed bag, about half and half, maybe slightly over half in the light category. Again, he just doesn't have that killer series like Eccleston or Tennant did. I don't even think he has anything that's as good as Series 5 when it comes to the good to bad ratio like Smith did. He doesn't even have the good to bad ratio that Jodie does in Series 12. because I like most of Series 12. The only ones I don't like in Series 12 are Timeless Children, which is probably worse than even Kill the Moon. Timeless Children's garbage for a multitude of reasons I've discussed, not just the canon rewriting. There's a lot of bad things it does, especially to the Cyberman. It has Praxis, which I don't necessarily think is bad. I just think it's uninteresting and boring. It has some cool stuff I like in it, but I don't really like it. It seems kind of dumb. And then Orphan 55, which also has a couple really good moments in it. Orphan 55 has, like, I did a list actually of that one. It has like 4 or 5 things I like in it, and several things I hate in it, and several things I think are just stupid in it. But overall, I don't like the story. But all the others in there I like to one degree or another. So we're talking 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 that I like. That's, I think, better than most of the ratios, or all the ratios of the Capaldi ones for me. Though I don't know if there's any story in that one that quite hits the heights of some of Capaldi's, like Heaven Sent and the Lake Two-Parter and Flatline and Mummy. But yeah, I do think Capaldi is the Doctor that's done the most disservice when it comes to how good he is versus how not as good his era is.